It's time for Cash Shit, the podcast where we talk cash shit. I'm one half of your host, E Cubed, the educated, educator, educating. And I'm here accompanied by
POC, which stands for point of clarification, because I need to be clear.
At all times. So today, I'm sorry, let's talk about the podcast, right? The podcast is the brainchild of POC and we have decided that there are topics that go on in life that we just want to talk about, right? We have opinions, we have thoughts, we have ideas. However, we believe that healthy dialogue amongst our family and friends is important. So we want to try to help facilitate some of those conversations. We want to chime in. We're going to have guests. We're going to have collaborations. We all for all of that. So if you're interested in sponsoring, hit up POC.
Okay.
What's the topic for today?
You said black resistance, and I got questions.
Wow. Black resistance. So you have questions. So let's talk about it. Black resistance. What does that mean to you? I know you said you had the questions, but I'm going to start.
No. Tell me what it means to you, because then I can feed off of that, because I don't know where you're going with it.
Okay. So
Are we resisting because we're black, or is... I don't understand. I'm so confused.
I am a wordsmith in my own right? I'm self-proclaimed wordsmith. So
no, he's actually very good.
When I say black resistance, I mean black people and their fight against injustices done against them. And I like to keep it that broad because black resistance exists in all walks of life. Does that definition serve your purposes? No,
because that doesn't make sense to me, because that would be resilience and not resistance to me.
No.
Why?
The end result, of course, would be resilience because, in my opinion, we always want to bounce back. However, the resistance comes from the struggle. It's the actual fight. So we're talking about the actual fight, the actual plight of African Americans, of black people. And specifically, when we talk about black resistance, I think we're talking about the United States.
Okay. I can flow with that. Let's go.
So now that you have that information, POC, and you're clear, what does black resistance mean to you?
I didn't say I was clear. I said, hey, I could flow with that.
Okay.
There was no
clarity. What does black resistance mean to you?
I guess I'll just piggyback off of what you said when you said that. Oh no, I'll have my own thought. Like, we struggle for everything. Education sometimes is much harder for us to go into. Even just being like a college student, I'm still a college student. He is a college professor. Sometimes it's more difficult for us. I mean, I'm a woman, so there you have it.
You know what's interesting? I feel like based off of this black resistance conversation, the one area of black resistance that we don't talk about is black resistance against blacks. So like, we are kind of struggling or battling against ourselves because for a long time it was no first African American anything. Now it's like, I'm the first African American this, or I'm the first African American that. I want to do this, I want to do that. And we set these standards and these bars to achieve for one person to actually achieve them. And then everybody kind of looking at them like, yeah, did you really make it? Or, you ain't really earned this, you ain't really earned that. And it's kind of like almost self-hate.
But is it people that's really looking at them, or are we as a race more critical of one another? Because that's what I feel like. I feel like, a white person or a Caucasian, I'll use the correct term, is more accepting of saying that someone of African American descent or black, or however you want to say it, was the first to do something than, one of our own. Because it's like, I was the first person to wear my hair like this. No, you wasn't. And then Black Twitter, my God, y'all will go ham and find someone else that has done it before or something similar. So I don't know. I think we're more critical of one another than a lot of other races, and I don't like it.
But I think that's by design. And there's this fictitious account of this letter, right? That everybody knows about. Not everybody, but a lot of people have heard about this Willie Lynch letter. And it was supposedly this idea that creating dissension among African Americans or black people of color, whatever the case is, kind of started back in slavery. And as long as we could keep this dissension going, then they'll never thrive. They'll never, grow. They'll always kind of be infighting as opposed to uplifting each other and pushing each other. Almost like the creation of the crabs in a barrel kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. And I feel like black resistance to some extent has to encompass that as well. And almost, maybe I might step on a few toes, but it's almost like that is the greater, in my opinion, conversation that's needed, as opposed to just the struggle that we have. Like, a lot of us live that struggle. You live that struggle daily. I live that struggle daily. Like, I'm an African-American male, fairly young. Don't let the gray fool you. I'm only in my 30s. And
I'm only in my 20s.
Yikes. And in my profession, what y'all didn't see was Duck. Duck was taken aback by that, just like I was. So, wait, did I introduce Duck on this one?
You haven't introduced him.
Oh, so Duck is the silent member right now. I'm sure he'll be, on one episode some point in time, because he definitely has opinions, thoughts, ideas. So we definitely will invite him. But, like in my profession, right, I am an educator by trade. Every day that I get up, I do feel the need to go in and prove who I am. Not necessarily, like, it's not in my head because I'm a black man, but I have no choice but to recognize that I am a black man. Mm-hmm. So every time I go into work, I have to prove that I know what I'm talking about. I have to prove that, and I'm in a kind of a leadership position. Mm-hmm. So I gotta prove. It's almost like I gotta prove myself daily, and I don't feel like my counterparts have to do that all the time.
Counterparts as in women?
No.
White men. I was about to say, because we have to do it double time.
Well, that's another thing, too.
We have to do it double time because, especially if we're talking to another man, black, white, purple, orange, yellow, whatever, talking to another man as an African-American woman, you have to cross every T, dot every I, make sure that you have researched it again, and again before you even open your mouth, before they will take it into consideration. Sometimes.
So this conversation about black resistance is like a double-edged sword for y'all.
It is.
But because see, I don't want nobody to be like canceling me, like, oh, he's a chauvinist, da 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 da. I get it, and I do understand.
Wait, do you understand or do you empathize? Because I don't think you could understand.
Well, I don't even think I can empathize. I can sympathize.
Sympathize, that's the word.
I can't empathize.
Sympathize is the word.
I can sympathize based off of the feeling of the struggle or the resistance that I have, but I cannot empathize from the viewpoint of having that double sword against you. So, like, I look at like a lot of different people on social media, people who are like presenting their thoughts and ideas, and I think what happens with women is a lot of times some women cry wolf so much that it convolutes y'all message, it convolutes y'all struggle, and it almost is held against y'all. Like, I know somebody who is fairly successful, but it's almost like she feels the need to pile on all of these adversities that she had to push through. And when people like do the research on who she is, they're like, but you really didn't go through that. And so in going through that and presenting herself as this black woman, like minority in her field and stuff like that, people start to look at her like, and thus looking at other black women who might come that same way and be like, all y'all do is kind of, what's the word? Like grandstand and make it seem like, life for you ain't been no crystal stair when you probably had a silver spoon hanging out your mouth.
But what's your definition of a silver spoon? Because your definition and other people's definition of silver spoons can be very different.
I get that, but what I mean by
that, with whatever person you're talking about, because I clearly don't know, But with whatever person you're talking about, she has a bigger issue. And her issue really doesn't even have anything to do with, the struggle or whatever. It's that the fact that she has drummed up this idea, she had to put thought into that. Then that means that there is something else underlying going on with her.
Most definitely. But that, because of the impact, the audience that she has, because of it impacts black women. So anytime I go out somewhere and I say I'm a black man, I have to understand that to some extent I represent all black men to whoever that audience is. And I don't think a lot of us recognize that. So when we talk about our fight, our struggle, the ideal mentality is that, dang, all black people go through this, or the majority of black people go through this, when that's not always the case. What I mean when I say a silver spoon hanging out your mouth, you can't in one instance tell me you grew up poor and destitute, and in the other instance tell me, but your family had money. You can't tell me that you didn't have, everything you wanted, but in the same token, how cultured you are because you participated in horseback riding and stuff like that since you were 3. Those things don't. You can't be. No. You can't be poor and not poor at the same time. And what happens is when you go back into somebody's background and you find out, like, oh, you've been horseback riding since you were 3. You've been, doing this since you were 5. You've been doing this since you were 6. But you get in front of these white people and you're like, I'm from the hood. My family didn't have no money. This, da-da-da-da-da. That's not the truth. And when people research your background, now you have kind of convoluted or clouded their picture of the African American woman.
But I feel that that's still like, so I have a few mentees, and I was talking to my mentees today, and it was something was brought to my attention was, one of them feels like someone else basically did what you just said. Like they put on this facade like they're so alone or lonely, but when they see them, they're with people. Or that they really, just stay in their room and they don't do much. But when they see them, they're out and about, right? But just because I'm in a room full of a crowded room full of people, does that not mean I'm not lonely?
I would say that that's different because.
How is that different? Though?
Because lonely is a state of being in your mind.
No. Let me.
Poor is. Okay, go ahead.
Poor is also a state of being in your mind.
Having no money.
I can say I'm poor right now, but my definition of poor and your definition of poor is 2 different things, correct? I asked someone yesterday, what's your definition of broke? When you're broke, what in your bank, for you to say that you're broke, what's still in your bank account?
Nothing is in my bank account when I say I'm broke.
Okay, that's my definition. It wasn't that person's definition. Or when I get down to like...
But that's the problem.
$500, like, yeah, I'm broke. No, $500.
No, you're not.
But me,
that's the problem. But that's also a mentality. I'll give you that. That's also a mentality, but that is the problem. Broke, poor, having no money. Let's put it this way. She will say she grew up having no money, but also was horseback riding.
But that wasn't her money,
having no money.
It was somebody else's money. It wasn't hers.
But if you're a kid and it's your parents, you don't say, "Oh, I grew up having no money, but my parents had me a horseback ride." No, like my family, don't have no money. And my family wasn't. And I'm sorry, my family.
My bad.
I'm not trying to say like, but we weren't rich. My mother did what she had to do. My father did what he had to do, and they made sure that we had a life that was meaningful. It was not the most, my mother, for example, right? We talk about holiday shopping or whatever the case is. My mother starts on December 26th shopping for Christmas the next year. Has always done that. Why? You got deals and sales that next day, and then throughout the year, all of those sales, and it gets to a point where my mother will have so much stuff stored away that years later she goes and she's like, "Oh shoot, I bought this in 2017 for Christmas, and here it is 2023," and she's trying to find somebody to give it to. But that's just because of how we grew up and her desire to make sure that we had, or we at least felt like we had.
That was just called good money management too.
Exactly. Versus somebody who's like,
Christmas,
I grew up poor, or I grew up not having, But you can't say you grew up not having, and you horseback rode. You want to know when I went horseback riding? I was an adult. I was in my 30s on a vacation because I was the best man in somebody's wedding in Punta Cana.
Well, I don't share that same experience though. Like, will I say that I ever grew up poor? No, I will never say that I grew up poor. My grandparents, aka parents, made sure I had any and everything that I needed, and then some. However, I have everything I want. So if I wanted to be selfish or crazy or whatever else, I could be like, yeah, I had the worst life in the world. I'm not going to go around saying that though. But the choices that I did make later on in life made my life hard.
But when we talk about black resistance and this idea that we already know that people view one black person as the voice of every black person, right? Especially because...
Well, I wish they don't.
But they do.
No, they cannot.
But they do.
No.
We have to recognize that. Otherwise, black resistance is always going to be a thing because we're always going to be fighting against what this black person did to these people.
So let me ask you a question.
What this black person did to those people.
Let me ask you a question. I put a pin in that because I need to laugh right now. Why is it that when we get on the news, right, and they do feature stories about things that happen, they find the worst looking person?
Because it's by design. That's part of what we have to resist. That's part of the struggle. They are not looking for the most educated.
Just went off. Black resistance. You're saying black resistance is basically us as quote unquote, not for real, but like regular people, normal people have to resist the stigma and the appearance of everything else that they have seen.
We have to fight against what people think we are.
Look at that.
We have to fight against how people view us. We have to fight against how people treat us. We have to fight against the injustices. It's multifaceted. So when you talk about black resistance, absolutely you're talking about that. Most definitely.
Okay, I get it. Oh, wow. No, because I don't want to be looked at like those yeah,
but that's the problem when we say things like, I'm the first black person to do this. Yes, that's an accomplishment. Never going to take away from it. But what you're also saying is no other black person has been able to do this and I achieved it. When you look at it that way, it's like, well, dang, what has my life been if I'm not at this level?
No.
Especially if the person didn't work to get there.
No. Oh, see, that's another thing. And you feel spirited all up in here about that, I see. But however, that's another thing. But again, so my main thing is I can control me. I can't control what you do or what no one else does. And if that is my desire, this is another thing. They desired to go forth and do whatever they did, whether it was giving it to them, whether they had to do whatever they had to do in not so nice ways to get there. That's what their desire was. So yeah, give them their kudos for being the first to do whatever it is they did. That might not have been my desire till I saw that someone else could do it.
But you're held to that standard. Even if it
why am I held to
because
I'm not
you're
held
a black
to that
person.
Standard.
You are. You're held to that standard because every time somebody sees you, that it's okay. Let me not say every time. I have this thing, right, where sometimes I say things as this is 100% it. I know it ain't always it. It is what it is. However, you can't stop people from looking at you like, well, Condoleezza Rice achieved this. Why can't you? POC.
I don't want to do what Condoleezza Rice did. I'm good.
But that doesn't matter to other people.
It does matter. Well, it shouldn't. Well, hey, you said the word. Other people.
Come on now.
It don't matter to me what it matters to other people.
Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, when we talk about black resistance, you have to understand that part of whatever struggles you go through, at least, I ain't even going to throw a number out there, but a percentage of it is based off the idea that you are black. A percentage of it is based off the idea that you're a woman. And when we talk about black resistance, that's what we're talking about you fighting against. And part of what I don't think people really get is some of what we're fighting against is the stigma that our people have placed on us. And we got to combat that so that we can thrive.
No, I agree. I do agree. However, but what I'm saying is this.
I got a point.
Go.
Think about the...
He don't always cut me off, but go ahead.
She's been cutting me off this whole time. Think about the idea of the angry black woman. That is a thing, right? Where did it come from? Angry black women. But it's the generalization of angry black women. Think about, the idea that African Americans are lazy and don't want to work. Yo, ask my principal. Oh, wait. I did say I was in education. Ask my principal if I'm lazy and don't want to work. Like, I almost had a stroke, a heart attack, I feel like, because I'm sitting there, like, making sure that the stuff that I'm supposed to do is right. However, the stigma is he's lazy, he don't know what he's talking about.
But at what point do you recognize that E cubed is who E cubed is, and you stand on that, and you don't care about what the stigma is out here? Because honestly, and you know,
see, my thing is this.
Say what you want about me, I don't care.
I'm a turn around to the camera and I'm gonna look dead at y'all and I'm gonna say this. E cubed could not care less what anybody thinks about E cubed. I love my mom. I'm a mama's boy. I'm a grandmama's boy. I love you, grandma. However, I'm a mama's boy, and I don't care what my mama thinks about me. An extent. I love my mama dearly. However, if she came to me and told me that I was wrong and I felt in my heart of hearts that I was right, then I'm right. Now, on the flip side to that is, if you ever tell me I'm wrong and my mama tell me I'm right, I'm right. No, you can reconcile that however you want. So I'm very, very much so secure in who I am. I'm very, very much so adamant about certain things. And people will tell you, I've been labeled a butthole, because I can't say what I really want to say. I've been labeled rude, disrespectful. But at the end of the day, I feel what I feel, and you have the right to feel what you feel. The one thing that those people who call me rude or disrespectful can never say is, I didn't allow them to get their point across. I didn't even tell them. Like, I can 100% disagree with you, but be like, you know what? You have the right to feel that way, and I understand where you're coming from. I just don't feel it for me. And I don't think a lot of people can do that. And until we can actually sit down and be objective in a conversation that, of course, comes across as subjective, then we're going to always have this resilience. We're going to always have this one-upsmanship. We're going to always have this situation where we got to prove that we are better. We got to prove that we have the right to sit at the table when 9 times out of 10, we built the daggone table.
Yes, we built the table.
We built the table that they sitting at, telling us we can't sit at.
I mean, I'm sorry, but make your own table. And that, I'm gonna be honest, the point that I am in my life right now, I'm just gonna make my own table because, and I'm gonna try to change the narrative not only for myself, but for others as well. But people are going to feel and think the way they want to feel and think. You have to be true to yourself. You have to live in your own truth. Trust me, once we start airing these,
I apologize that I keep moving up in the camera. I just want y'all to see this light-skinned goodness. Oh, yeah, that was colorism. I'm going to be canceled on Monday. But no, like, I get what you're saying. And I do feel like, to an extent, we have been kind of taught to feel like we have to go above and beyond.
Absolutely.
We've been trained to feel like our opinion doesn't necessarily matter.
Absolutely
not.
I was never trained that way. And that's
society trains you that way.
No. Yes. No, okay, well, then
you're a black woman.
And that's probably the way.
Your opinion means absolutely nothing.
It means everything to me.
To you.
But that's all that matters.
What do you mean to society?
I don't care about them people. What they gonna do?
Withhold your, pay you less than they pay men.
I'm not talking about that.
But that's it. You have to. You can't just. But you cannot.
So does that mean that I just stop? I stop moving forward because they said that I cannot, or they feel this way about me. So that's what they want us to do. They want us to stop doing the things that we know that we can do better than them.
So I have this theory, right? There are like 5 major sects in this society thing. Like education, business, religion, and 2 more. I'm not going to tell people because I can't give all my secrets away, right? And in those 5 things, the whole, actually it's 4, but in those 5 entities, the main thing is about balance.
Yes.
So if you notice, whenever the conversation shifts in one of those I can't even say the word, in one of those sections, then the other section suffers. So let's look at business and education, right? Business as, first off, we understand that education is a business.
I was about to say education
but
is
it
a
has
business.
its own section.
Yes, it does.
And business has its own section.
Yes.
When we talk about equity, right, and business, education suffers, but nobody notices that. Excuse me. When we talk about equity in education, big business suffers, but nobody talks about that. So it's a balance game. And one thing that I want everybody to understand is, as an African American, we ain't heavy on the scales to weigh that down.
I do understand that, but from what you said earlier, I feel as though if we continue to care about who was first or who was second or who was third or who did it better, then we're going to stay stuck. And why don't you just, if everybody focuses on them being the best person that they absolutely can be, and I don't care about what he say about me, or she didn't wear that right, or she didn't spell that or pronounce, or da-da-da. I don't care about none of that. If I was being my best, absolutely I do.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I do not. I do. I do. And to some extent, I expect us to be better than them at everything, because we are.
That was a little racially motivated. So I get what you're saying.
It was not, and I'm not. Listen, if y'all saw what my daddy looked like, y'all know I'm daggone sure not no daggone racist. However, I just expect, especially black women, I expect us to be better at everything.
But that's not always going to be the case. I get what you're saying. The expectation is there.
I said the expectation is there.
Right.
Because it's nothing, honestly, that we cannot do. And for so long, they've told us that we could do nothing.
Well.
And we've proven them wrong at every turn. So everyone.
Have we?
Yes, we have.
Have we? Because you got to understand when they
someone
say.
has.
But you got to understand when they say shit like.
Stuff like.
When they say stuff like that, they're talking about in the average or the majority. Not just that singular person. Not just that. That's why when people put so much, like, we're in 2020. We're in 2023, but the election for president happened, and we got an African American female vice president, right? Mm-hmm. And in the year of our Lord,
what are we now? Go ahead.
In the 2000s, we are still holding in high regard and high esteem. Now, granted, it's not that it's not an accomplishment. It's not that it doesn't deserve to be celebrated. But we are still like, it's the first African-American president. When Obama came, it was the first African. We're in the 2000s. We're in the 2000s, and that's still what we're celebrating?
Yeah.
Black resistance is the, like, it's so much that goes into it that you can't just sum it up in one conversation. We definitely ain't gonna sum it up now.
No, we're not.
Because it's so many facets, and you gotta address all of them. And can you really do that? Can you actually address all of the issues and make it make sense?
No, you can't. Not in one sitting. But what we can do during the life of this podcast is try to tackle a lot of them.
We can.
And full disclosure and full disclaimer, nothing that we are saying on here is, we're not saying that we are 100% right about everything. It's his opinion. It's my opinion. We are not representing any company. We do not have any ties to any affiliations to anyone. We are strictly representing myself, and he is strictly representing himself. And these are just the types of conversations that we happen to sit around and have all the time.
And what we do expect is for people to kind of chime in and join the conversation. Mm-hmm. Put your comments out there. Give us stuff to think about, because iron sharpens iron. So the only way that opinions can sway, that things could change, is through dialogue, through conversation, through thoughts. So most definitely, if you see it on Facebook, put a comment under there. If you see us on YouTube, put a comment under there. If you see us in the street, put a comment under there. Just don't try to Will Smith me, because I fight back.
How they gonna put a comment though? I'm so confused.
On YouTube?
No, you said if you see us in the street, put a comment under there.
Don't comment. Just speak.
Just say hi.
Hey. All right, so that is the podcast. That's how we're going to do this thing. It's been a nice little conversation today.
It has.
Next time we'll be talking about something different. So tune in.